Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 2024 year-end edition of Sir Han on X. This is the last episode of the 2024 calendar year, coming to you live from Cincinnati, Ohio, live in the United States. Hope everyone had themselves a wonderful 30th of December 2024. We're about 48 hours away from the end of the calendar year, and hope everyone had themselves a great 2024 calendar year. Of course, highs, lows all over the place with everyone. That's how the life is. Yours truly being one of them. Last episode, actually decent day here in Cincinnati, actually in the mid 40s. I'm gonna go ahead and enjoy it and enjoy the outside and just sit down until the new year comes around. Hope everyone themselves does the same thing. And if you guys are gonna go out and enjoy the Happy New Year's 2024 celebration into 2025, I hope everybody out there enjoys themselves and they find a way to stay safe because we know how it gets this time of year. So I'm going to go ahead and just get right down to it here real quickly as we divulge into the uh, topics of the day. Of course, in the NFL, it was the week 17. Happy Victory Monday to everyone who celebrates. Playoff teams, non-playoff teams. Happy Victory Monday to everybody. Uh, of course, Christmas Day, it was Kansas and Baltimore just running wild on their opponents. Saturday, the Chargers clinching a playoff spot. A terrific game in Cincinnati with Denver and Cincinnati. And the Rams clinching a playoff spot, officially clinching the division due to the victory over with the Commanders winning. I keep thinking of them as the Redskins. I don't know why. But it was a solid win all the NFL weekend all the way around. I'll just break this down here real quick. Chargers clinch the playoff spot. More likely going to get the 6th seed. Could sneak into the 5 if things get crazy in Pittsburgh and Baltimore. I don't think it's going to happen because I think Pittsburgh and Baltimore are going to wind up. Baltimore's going to clinch the division. Pittsburgh's going to clinch a 5 seed when they beat Cincinnati on Saturday. Chargers will probably get the 6th seed, likely going to be going to Baltimore. Of course, the 7th seed is still yet to be determined. Denver's going to win in their in proposition. Of course, Miami can get in with a win and a Broncos loss. Cincinnati needs. But I'm going to break this down here real quick. Let me just say this real quick for all you guys in Cincinnati, and this is where I lost you guys again. You guys are begging the Kansas City Chiefs to play their starters so you can go to the playoffs. A playoff spot you guys don't really deserve. You guys went 1-7 against teams with winning records, and the one win was Saturday night. You went 3-5 at home, and you guys think you deserve a shot at the playoffs. Doesn't work that way. You guys say the Kansas City Chiefs, I have it out for you. Kansas City has bigger fish to fry than the Cincinnati Bengals right now, and I think anybody with a brain knows this. And I say it for this reason. They have the 1 seed. They're going to the playoffs. They're up here. Everybody's down there. You guys are even in the playoff discussion, so it's not even worth talking about at the moment. But needless to say, for you guys to beg Kansas City to play their start in the playoffs, I'm not even entertaining it. I'm watching all you guys sitting here just laughing at you guys saying, Kansas is not going to play their guys. So what? Kansas City can do whatever the heck they want. You guys lost a chance at a playoff spot a long time ago. Actually, I go back to week 1 when you let the New England Patriots dog walk you. I mean, it wasn't even close at all. My goodness. But geez, oh Pete's. Quit worrying about what somebody else does. Just find a way to win in Pittsburgh and finish the season on a serious note and let the rest play themselves out. And quit playing the NFL on anything where they set the schedule up for Saturday because the NFL has bigger fish to fry themselves. And let me remind you also, I don't think Mike Tomlin's going to take it lightly that he has a chance to knock you guys out of the postseason because I'll tell you this, that's likely going to happen. Because Pittsburgh just lost 3 straight, and the 3 games they were humiliated in. And I'll tell you this much, Mike Tomlin is going to have this guy ready to go and probably end your playoff hopes Saturday. That's why I don't even talk about this conversation, but I think it's just dumb, but it has to be brought up. But good luck, Cincinnati. Quit worrying about what other teams do. Focus on beating Pittsburgh Saturday because that's the only thing that matters. Now, before I proceed about the playoffs, speaking of the NFL, be remiss if I didn't touch about this a little bit because over the weekend we lost one of the premier broadcasters in the NFL happens to be the standout Greg Gumbel. He was actually my favorite play-by-play guy because he enjoyed what he did. I mean, you could see when he picked up the mic, whether it was on CBS, NBC. I think he did some time at ABC, if I'm correct. But when he was on it, he just loved what he did. I mean, when you think about the selection Sunday, for the 68 team, 64 team selections for the NCAA tournament, he was the pioneer. He was the one that was a driving force behind it and was absolutely a standout for that time. One of the premier broadcasters, called two Bowls. I think it's the one with Baltimore over the Giants and the Patriots over the Panthers. When CBS got the rights back to the NFL after 1998, hosted the NFL Today show with Terry Bradshaw. Of course, went to NBC, did some basketball there as well as baseball and even football. One of the terrific guys and one of the great broadcasters maybe ever. And he was my personal favorite. Every time I look for a game, even though it didn't feature my team or not, I was seeking out the one he would call because he was the one I was always looking forward to the most. It's a sad day basically for the NFL and basically in all the broadcasting world. Condolences to Greg Gumbel and his family. He was just basically a terrific broadcaster and a terrific guy from everything I've read and heard. So thank you, Greg Gumbel. You were absolutely terrific. Now I'm going to break down the playoffs a little further to simplify it. The teams are basically set. The only exception is whoever gets the 7th seed in the AFC, but I don't think that's going to matter because whoever gets it is going to go to Buffalo and get dog walked. But the NFC, you're looking at two teams with at least, actually potentially all three teams with at least 12 wins and having to play on the road in the playoffs. That's crazy. I mean, Washington clinched last night. Jaden Daniels showed why he's the NFL Rookie of the Year by far. Green Bay clinched a couple of weeks ago. I didn't think they mattered much yesterday against Minnesota, although everyone's making a big hubbub out of it. And of course, Minnesota and Detroit, whoever wins that game. Of course, the giant Sunday night game for the number 1 seed in the NFC, Minnesota at Detroit. Could you ask for anything more than that? Standout game. Probably the two best teams in the NFC by far. May the best team win that one. I'll talk about that when I make my first broadcast of the new year. But Tampa Bay is going to probably win the South because Atlanta laid an egg in Washington. And the Rams clinched the NFC East due to the so-called strength of victory. I don't know what the hell that is. Sounds like it's BCS format from the old BCS college days in the NFL. It's college football, excuse me. But big win for Washington getting in. Rams get the 3 seed. Probably they're going to be playing Green Bay. Going to the matchups when the time comes because still seeding needs to be determined. The teams are actually set for the most part in the NFC. AFC is more about seeding right now. Kansas got the 1 seed. They can do whatever the heck they want. Sorry, Cincinnati. Buffalo got the 2 seed. They can do whatever they want. It's going to come down to 3, 5, and 6. It's basically Baltimore, Pittsburgh, and the Chargers. Baltimore is going to probably get the 3 seed because they're going to dog walk Cleveland. Because don't think they would forget what happened earlier this year in Cleveland when Jameis Winston beat them. It's a different Baltimore team now, and I expect them to get the win against Cleveland Saturday. Pittsburgh probably beats Cincinnati and clinches the 5 seed, which leaves the Chargers at the 6 seed. And of course, the fight is a 7 seed between Denver, Miami, and Cincinnati. Of course, a big hubbub is Miami and Cincinnati fans wanting Kansas City to play their starters, and so Denver get knocked out so those two can have a chance. Problem is for Miami and Cincinnati, both of you guys lost your chances a long time ago. And the fact you guys want to resort to this says a lot about the character you guys are as people, begging for other teams to tank seasons, to tank games so you can get into the playoffs. This is one of the most idiotic things you could do. Root for another team to lose so you can get into the playoffs when you don't deserve it. Both Miami and Cincinnati really don't. Because for many reasons, I'll touch on that here in a minute. But what would be the best thing? If Kansas City plays their starters, it doesn't please Miami and Cincinnati, but Denver beats them. Think about that. You guys lost your chance at the playoffs a long, long time ago. Both you teams can't beat a team with winning records, and you guys wonder why you're in this situation. I mean, Miami has been chronicled for the last 3 years, and in Cincinnati, 3-5 at home, 1-7 against teams with winning records, a $55 million quarterback a year you think is an MVP conversation when he doesn't deserve it. I can go on and on and on. But the playoffs are here. I don't know what really Kansas is going to do, but I think Denver this time capitalizes on the opportunity and gets that last seed. I'll touch more on that later this week. Whether Kansas plays their starters or not, I think it's irrelevant, but we'll see where that goes. So, which leads me, of course, when we talk about the MVP talk, is probably the most interesting one I've heard in quite some time because all the fan bases all over the place have just lost their crap. I can see another word, but I'm not using the platform to curse. That's going to be my goal in 2025, not to curse on this platform. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Saquon Barkley, Patrick Mahomes. I'll throw a wild card at you with this one. Baker Mayfield. That's all I want to hear. Anybody else you bring up is irrelevant because nobody did anything of significance to deserve to be in the conversation. I mean, what Josh Allen's done in Buffalo speaks volumes. I mean, he'd be my vote right now. Lamar Jackson, who people thought didn't deserve it last year, has had a better year this year, is definitely in the conversation. I mean, if he can have an explosive performance against Cleveland on Saturday, it's possible he might steal it. Saquon Barkley, the 2,000 yards. I said if he gets at 2,000 yards, I think he would have a real shot at it. Patrick Mahomes, by default, I mean, they got the number 1 seed when you think of all the injuries that Kansas went through. I mean, they found a way to stay the 1 seed, played games to the wire, almost week in and week out. Maybe the only easy one, if you want to say that, was Christmas at Pittsburgh. And I throw Baker Mayfield for this reason. I mean, after he went to Tampa last year, he's basically and took off. He's got even better this year. Think about the numbers he's put up and think about having 4 games, not having Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. Of course, he lost Godwin for the year. Evans missed 4 games because of the hamstring. He's still putting up numbers, and Tampa Bay's knocking on the door to win the NFC South, which I think they're going to do it when they just crush the Saints. Those are the only 4 candidates I will welcome right now. I could throw a guy like a Jared Goff in there with what he's done in Detroit. Give me throw a guy like Sam Darnold. I mean, maybe Sam Darnold should get a vote for comeback player of the year for what he's done in Minnesota. I mean, anybody really thought Minnesota was going to be 14-2 at this point? I could maybe add a couple of others in there, but that's the end game right there for MVP. Which raises a question. For these MVP candidates and whoever you guys have, maybe we need to define the term valuable in this context because sometimes, especially here in Cincinnati with that quarterback, they don't get it. You can go valuable many, many ways possible. Whatever the definition is, have at it. But those 5 guys I mentioned is basically an end game for me. A couple others maybe just outside looking in. But I don't want to hear about the guy didn't get it because the guy doesn't consider the conversation because they hate us. Because I hear that in Cincinnati right now when it comes to Joe Burrow. He's had a great season, but MVP worthy? No. MVP candidates do not let Jacoby Brissett dog walk him on the home field the way he did week 1. MVP candidates don't let Russell Wilson outplay you like what happened a few weeks ago here. MVP candidates don't let rookies run wild on them the same way Jaden Daniels did week 3. Now, I know Jaden Daniels is just a different breed. He's the rookie of the year. But if you're an MVP candidate, you don't let that happen. MVPs don't lead their teams to 3-5 home records. That's another problem. You don't take things into consideration when you think about this in Cincinnati, and that's why I sit back, eat popcorn, and laugh when you guys bring up MVP with this guy. If he's your MVP, that's one thing. To call him the MVP, that's something else. I mean, I love the guy like all you guys do, but anybody see me put him on a pedestal with all these other quarterbacks? No, because 1, I don't have a leg to stand on it. 2, nobody's given me any legitimate proof to defend it. 3, I said all along, I will stand on my own when it comes to all of this and just let my 2 eyes do all the dictating. I don't care about stats or stat sheets. I let the eyes do the dictating. He doesn't belong in the MVP conversation. Comeback Player of the Year? Maybe. But is it really worth getting that award because he already won it once? No. It is what it is at this point. We'll see what happens when the season is over. Because I said, I'm going to just unload on all of this because there's a lot of cowardice that's going on here in Cincinnati when it comes to all these MVP talk and their NFL conspiracy theories, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because I'm going to be dropping bombs all over the place. I already have my ammunition ready, just waiting for the time to come. Of course, the other awards, Coach of the Year, I'd probably say Minnesota beats Detroit Sunday night, which is plausible. I think Kevin O'Connor clinches it. I mean, what they've done in Minnesota. Anybody even see this? Anybody really thought they were going to be 14-2, potentially 15-2 with the number 1 seed? I mean, it speaks to the volumes of what he's done with Sam Darnold, what he's done with that team. Of course, what Brian Flores has done with that defense, because that defense has been absolutely all over the place basically the entire season, putting claims down on some of the better quarterbacks in the league. I mean, think about the one time they picked off Jordan Love 3 times in the first game against Green Bay. They basically harassed Brock Purdy and C.J. Stroud. I mean, that Minnesota team is cooking right now. What does it mean in the playoffs? Of course, it's a different story, but you can't take away the fact what he's done this season, what Kevin O'Connor has done this season in Minnesota. He's going to, my opinion, wrap up the Coach of the Year if they manage to beat Detroit Sunday, which is a high probability, because I think this is a good doozy of a game and it's going to be a toss-up. Take your pick. May the best team win. Offensive Player of the Year. I think if Ja'Marr Chase clinches the Triple Crown, I think he gets it. Of course, the only candidate is Saquon Barkley, the 2,000 yards. No wrong answer either way. I think both of them are deserving of it. I go on the other awards. Jaden Daniels has wrapped up the Rookie of the Year, in my opinion. I mean, Bo Nix came on like out of nowhere, off the charts. I mean, love Bo Nix. I mean, he showed me a lot of moxie in Cincinnati the other night. But Jaden Daniels had this wrapped up a long time ago, and clinching the playoff spot, I think basically sealed it. He's your Rookie of the Year. And as I said before to you guys in Chicago, you should have taken him over Caleb Williams. Look at Washington now. Look at Chicago now. The results speak for themselves. I'm not even going to add more to it because I'll let the results speak. Anybody knows me knows I am a results-driven individual. How you get there is one thing, but the results speak more than anything else. That's the only thing that matters. So more NFL talk when I come back in 2025. Now to a bizarre story that took place in the NBA over the weekend. This came out of nowhere. I don't know what it is or why it is. There's, of course, a lot of stories with it. But it was the Sacramento Kings firing the unanimous Coach of the Year last year, Mike Brown. The guy was the unanimous Coach of the Year last year. I mean, there were some rumors that they were looking to deal De'Aaron Fox, their standout point guard. Don't know how true that is. But they decided just nowhere to just give Mike Brown the axe out of nowhere. I guess they're talking about, I guess there was a press conference that came out the day before. He said there was going to be accountability. There's rumors that it involved him and DeMar DeRozan. I don't know what the deal is. But it speaks to the volumes of why the Sacramento Kings should call themselves the Sacramento Queens, because you fire a guy after he wins the unanimous Coach of the Year award and all of a sudden decides to axe everybody. I mean, really? After one season of being the Coach of the Year? I mean, they have pieces to put a team together. You talk about, of course, the top two being De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis. And I get they're underachieving, but I don't know why you would fire someone who was just your Coach of the Year. Because the roster makeup outside of those two is absolutely pedestrian at best. I mean, you were gift wrapped the I think it's the Pacific Division title last year in the same division with the Clippers, Lakers, and Warriors, and Suns. You were gift wrapped that division. You lost the first round of Golden State. No shame in that because Steph Curry just went all Steph Curry on you in Game 7. We know how that was. But to turn around and fire him like this is why you guys have been the laughingstock since you had that great rivalry with the Lakers in the early 2000s. Because ever since then, it's been a downturn and it's been a downturn and a downturn bad. And that's why Shaquille O'Neal way back called you the Sacramento Queens. I think he's validated with it with another suspect firing with this. I mean, I don't know who's running that team, but somebody needs to have their heads examined and check for CTE for firing a coach of the year because it was absolutely insane. I never got that. So I don't talk much NBA, but when something like this happens, it raises questions. I mean, Mike Malone of the Nuggets and Steve Kerr of the Warriors just fried this to the ashes, and rightfully so. I mean, their opinions are all over the platforms. You can go ahead and look at it, and go ahead and listen for yourselves. I'll let them do the talking. So that's my NBA topic. Actually, of course, tomorrow and the day after is the college football playoff. Uh, the big one, of course, is Ohio State and Oregon. Rematch of what took place up in the Northwest earlier this season, where Ryan Day didn't have the balls to coach the team to a win. I want to see what he's made of when this game happens. It's, of course, a rematch of perhaps the most disgusting incident I ever saw when Trayshawn Holden spit in the face of Davidson Abudinson for whatever reason. I want to see if he's grown up and matured, but it doesn't matter. As long as Ohio State puts Denzel Burke on the field, they're not beating Oregon. Because when Denzel Burke was on the field, he was easier to toast than putting sliced bread in a toaster. I mean, he was just that pathetic. And Jim Knowles and Ryan Day have this sick-headed obsession, sick-headed, to want to play this guy, and wherever he's on there, he's getting burnt by somebody. If he's going to put him out there, they're not beating Oregon. It's simple math. But Ryan Day's going to have to be a man and actually coach like he did against Tennessee, because I liked how he coached against Tennessee. First 3 possessions, go get it, get the touchdowns. That's how you coach. That's how you coach. That's how you should have been coaching all along. Because you have, quote, on paper, the most talented team in the nation. You find a way to lay eggs against Oregon and Michigan. Look at yourself in the mirror. He's going to have to coach like a man to beat Oregon, because I'll tell you, Dan Henning is one whale of a coach over there. That Oregon team right now is the best team in the country, in my opinion, and there's a reason for it. Ryan Day is going to have to coach like a man to have a chance to beat Oregon whenever, I think it's New Year's Day, because that's the only chance he has, is if he coaches like a man, because that's what he did against Tennessee. I liked it. Carry the momentum over if you want to have a shot at beating Oregon. Of course, the other playoff games, Georgia playing Notre Dame. Of course, the story here is no Carson Beck. I don't think that's going to matter. I think Georgia's going to find a way to win that one. Should be a good one. I'm going to say it's a Penn State. I can remember the other ones off the top of my head. I think it's Penn State and Boise State. Penn State's defense, as long as they play like that, they're going places. I mean, what they did to Kevin Jennings in the win over SMU spoke volumes, just how good they are, the 2 pick sixes. But Alshon Jeffrey, who in my opinion should have been the real Heisman winner, is going to be a tough cover for anybody. I think that game is going to be a pretty darn good one. I think Arizona State, I'm trying to think who they play next. I can't even remember off the top of my head. But I think they should handle business, because I think Scatterbo is just as a man amongst boys himself. I think he runs over whoever they play anyways. So that's your college football field. Give me Oregon, Georgia. I'm going to take Penn State over Boise State, because I think it's a pretty darn, I think it's going to be a good one there. And I think Arizona State beats whomever, because I think Scatterbo is just rolling right now, and I expect him to continue to roll. Actually, if I think of who they're playing, I'll think about it here in a minute. So I didn't get a chance to talk about that much, because I won't be here during the college football telecasts. So enjoy the games. I think all 4 games should be this should be a pretty darn good weekend of bowl games for those 8 teams going at it. We'll have the Final 4, of course, coming up. Now, as I wrap up this year, I always like to talk about the historical aspect of boxing. Actually, the weird thing is, for this sport, it doesn't have many historical moments, but one of them probably is worth talking about, because this includes probably one of the scariest individuals of all time. Before Mike Tyson, before George Foreman, and even before a guy like Sonny Liston, and maybe throw a couple other guys in the class like Roberto Duran, there was a Manasa Molar, Jack Dempsey. known for his relentless aggression, strong two-fisted power, hard head, strong chin. Some people actually thought that his head was like metal. I mean, even some opponents said his head was that hard. He took on a pretty sound fighter named Ed Gunboat Smith, a member of the U.S. Navy, known called Gunboat because he had big feet and basically gunboat-sized feet, just about. Nothing much in terms of this fight, just simply because it was the middle of the 7-year reign as heavyweight champion of the world for Jack Dempsey. The first punch that Ed Smith hit Jack Dempsey with was a right cross, and Dempsey just shrugged it off like it was nothing. Dempsey goes on to floor Smith, to be Gunboat Smith, 9 times in 2 rounds to get a stoppage win. The beating was so lopsided to where Gunboat basically told the referee, "This guy's like poison." I mean, that's what it was. I mean, Jack Dempsey was one of those guys who could deliver beatings to anyone at any level for that time, because Dempsey was basically it. He comes forward, is one of the pure come forward fighters that comes at you with ruthless aggression, power in equal fists. Doesn't have a real standout punch. Equal power in both fists, something we don't see much. And basically, he just took it to Gunboat, and it was over just like that. Every time he hit Gunboat, Gunboat was down 9 times in 2 rounds. That was all she wrote. It was basically a standout win for him. Later on, a real interesting story with Ed Gunboat Smith. He moved to Ireland to become an actor. It was also not only a sparring partner for guys like Jack Johnson and Stanley Ketchel, but he was also a boxing referee, which is something unheard of at the time. You know, going from being a fighter to a referee, which I think was a cool thing, because when you think about being a referee in a situation when he was once a fighter, I think it helped him out a lot, because now he understands the mindset of a fighter when he was a referee. Of course, he was a standout sparring partner for the standouts Jack Johnson and Stanley Ketchel, when even before they fought way back when. Very, very interesting story. Had a intriguing 2-fight series with Sam Langford at that time himself. Is worth reading. He beat Sanford 1 time on points. Second time, Langford just demolishes him in 3 rounds. But Ed Gunboat Smith is a very intriguing story. It's a must read for you fight followers, fight historians. If you want to read a story, read one about Gunboat Smith. It's really a good one. Now, of course, for Jack Dempsey, middle of the 7-year reign as a heavyweight champ, got a win over Jess Willard in one of the most bizarre outcries after the fight, where there was false accusations of, plaster of Paris and hand wraps. Now, mind you, this is before Louis Russell, Billy Collins, and Antonio Margarito, Shane Mosley. You guys know what happened with that. Same accusations took place there, but it turned out that after Jack Dempsey fired his trainer, Jack Kearns, who went to Willem's corner, he basically just made an accusation, and the whole thing was shot down. Actually, there was an old newspaper article where Jack Dempsey put both his fists out and basically showed legal hand wraps on his hands when he just beat the brakes off of Jess Willard back then. Because all the accusations that took place at the time was largely because of jealousy, due to the fact that Jack Dempsey wanted to move on from his then manager, Jack Kearns, who was in the manager of Jess Willard going into this particular fight. And the false accusation that took place was largely because of jealousy. That's what it was at the end of the day. That's another thing you guys can read on there. For that time, Jack Dempsey, Jess Willard, 2 of the better heavyweights at that time. Of course, James Jace Jeffries. Of course, Dempsey has 2 fights with Gene Tunney. The second one, of course, the famous long count. You guys can research that for yourself. Hands down, a top 10 all-time great heavyweight. The 7-year reign speaks for itself. The resume speaks for itself. His ability to put fighters away in a vicious manner spoke for itself. This is before we saw the fury of Mike Tyson and the fury of Sonny Liston, and of course the methodical, destructive force that was George Foreman. Jack Dempsey was all of that and then some back in the 1910s and 1920s. They didn't call him the Manassa Mauler for nothing. He was absolutely a standout during that time. Hands down, a top 10 all-time great heavyweight. You guys put your top 10 list I better see Jack Dempsey on there. Otherwise, you have no credibility. As simple as that. 108 years ago today, Jack Dempsey showed the world why he was, at that time, the baddest man on the planet and why he was nicknamed correctly the Manasa Molar. Now, we talk about something else because this week it was officially announced the rematch of the Dmitry Bivol, Utter Better Biev light heavyweight title fight. Not going to talk about that, but I'm going to talk about some of the all-time great light heavyweights as it segues into this. Because a lot of guys think Bivol and Better Biev are in this conversation. You guys need to shut up. The standouts, Ezra Charles, Billy Conn, Gene Tunney, Bob Foster, Archie Moore, Michael Spinks, Sam Langford. I can throw a few others in there, but that's pretty much it. Some others in there, obviously, you can mix it up. Don't have a real rankings. I just spout the common names on top. Maybe a deeper pool than you would think. Maybe the end game was where Michael Spinks went 2-belt undisputed, because from that, remember, when these guys were winning titles, it was a 1-belt era. When Michael Spinks became undisputed, it was a 2-belt era. It got to a point after that where everybody was obsessed with belt collecting, and in a couple fighters' case, testing positive for steroids, that they think because of that they belong in the conversation. Doesn't it work that way? Those guys I mentioned fought everyone, cleaned out the divisions at that time, beat the best at their best, did it in 1-belt eras where 1 belt, winner takes all. That's what it came down to. Not fake championships like Daniel Dubois has. Legit championships where 1 belt, winner takes all. Because Ezra Charles is standing out here in Cincinnati. Some people put Archie Moore over Charles. I understand it. But let me remind you, Charles beat Archie Moore 3 times, so he gets a nod there. Archie Moore, the persistent fighter, probably the most consistent winner of the light heavyweight division. Probably the most pure, one of the harder punchers there. 130 plus knockouts. Record's never going to be broken. Bob Foster, tall, lanky fighter who had a vicious left hook and a solid jab. Of course, defended his title 14 times against 13 different fighters. I mean, that's still a record. Of course, the way he won it when he just pulverized Dick Tiger was something else. I mean, no one obliterated Dick Tiger the way Bob Foster did. Perfectly placed left hook on the point of the chin, and Tiger was gone. Billy Conn speaks for itself. Gene Tunney, great run light heavyweight. Of course, known for his 2 wins over Jack Dempsey when he went to heavyweight, which basically helped his light heavyweight stature. Sam Langford, probably the greatest fighter to have never gotten a title shot. Of course, back then, we know what the real reason was. I'm not going to get into it due to the sensitivity of the topic. And of course, Michael Spinks, the 2-belt light heavyweight champ, of course, goes on to beat Larry Holmes. Of course, gets knocked out by Mike Tyson, which is unfortunate because we have morons in the boxing community who think that that Michael Spinks was better known for being knocked out by Mike Tyson. People forget, to get to that point, Michael Spinks had to rule the light heavyweight division and beat Larry Holmes twice. We're not talking about Mike Tyson knocking out Michael Spinks the way he did if we're not talking about all of that. Because Michael Spinks was a phenomenal light heavyweight. I mean, we beat Matthew Saad Muhammad, Dwight Cowie, list goes on and on in that division. Clean it out, 2-belt undisputed era. What can you say? 8 through 10, the rest of it, I could go way back when. A couple games I can't pronounce them at the moment, but maybe you throw a Matthew Saad Muhammad out there. Had a great fight with Yaki Lopez. Maybe you say we could probably go in there because he won a light heavyweight belt. Had a great fight with Spinks, and of course the great cruiserweight fight with Evander Holyfield. But that's the end game. The light heavyweight division, maybe not as deep as some of the other all-time greats when you think of middleweight, lightweight, welterweight, and maybe even heavyweight. Because the end game probably was with Michael Spinks in the 80s. Because we haven't had a legit light heavyweight undisputed champ who had that kind of a legacy or an aura the way Michael Spinks did in the 80s. Because that's it. So, but great division filled with great fighters. And of course, we talk about Ezra Charles, because I get asked this a lot. Talk about one of the premier Cincinnati icons here in Cincinnati. Has a street named after him. Has a huge like graffiti mural in the middle of a apartment complex, dead center of, I would say, there was Liberty Street I was on that day. Can't remember what it is now. I mean, literally a big mural. I'd probably say it was like 500 feet by 600 feet. The sucker was huge. Of course, he has an apartment area named after him. It's now called Ezra Charles Apartments. The statue, Ezra Charles Park. I posted on my X platform. If you guys want me to post it again, I'll gladly do it. But that's the icon of Ezra Charles. When you think of him, not just a great fighter in the ring, but promoted, community responsibility. At one point, was also a jazz musician here in Cincinnati. I mean, one of the surreal, great humanitarians to come through here, which is something we don't say much in Cincinnati, but that's what Ezra Charles was. One of the true greats that come through here. And when I mention the Cincinnati icons, he's always going to be up there with guys like Oscar Robertson, Aaron Pryor, Johnny Bench, Joe Morgan, Ken Anderson, Anthony Munoz, Barry Larkin, and the most recent one, Luciano Lucho Acosta of the soccer team FC Cincinnati. Ezra Charles probably clears all of that. I mean, what can you say? I mean, the guy has a street named after him, doesn't he? I know Barry Larkin does also, but Ezra Charles, actually, the park I went to last summer, I forgot what it's called. It was called Laurel Park, but in 2022, there was some kind of council vote. They voted to call it Ezra Charles Park, and thank goodness it did, because Ezra Charles was all about community responsibility, doing work in the community, because that's what he did. And it was grateful that he had that park named after him. Like a real small park, not one of the biggest ones, but it's real nice. I got a chance to see it this around the election time when I went there. Actually, nice to give Ezra Charles an honor because he deserved it. A true Cincinnati icon by default. So that will conclude my topic on the all-time great light heavyweights. I'll always talk about Ezra Charles simply because of his impact in Cincinnati. I mean, there's a reason why he's called the Cincinnati Cobra. Of course, he went up to heavyweight, beat Jersey Joe Walcott, got a decision over Joe Louis. A faded Joe Louis. Had a 2-fight series with Rocky Marciano. Actually, the only fighter during Rocky Marciano's reign to go the full 15-round distance with Marciano. That's Ezra Charles' legacy. So we all love Ezra Charles. His history here in Cincinnati speaks for itself. And as I wrap up the 2024 calendar year, my last show, one of the things I've got a chance to understand when it comes to all this live streaming, podcasting, broadcasting, whatever the freaking minutiae you want to call it, everybody's got a voice. I mean, how you want to use it is up to you. I mean, it doesn't matter about agreeing, disagreeing, but if the reasons for some of course, I can go into, but I won't use this platform for it because I only can speak for myself. One thing I'll never do is I'll never engage in clickbait. One thing I will never do is lie to generate reactions. One thing I will never do is basically give passes to people that don't deserve it. And I say this for this reason. A lot of people in the Cincinnati community and the boxing community, the two communities I interact with for the most part, do a lot of that. That's why I distance myself from it. I use this platform more to show the world that, one, I'm not a fake account. And two, instead of writing 15,000 word posts that nobody's going to read, just basically gets misinterpreted. Just, see the real me and see who I really am. I mean, I'm no different than the ones that meet me here in person. I'm no different than, anybody that is on this platform to involve in the content creator or whatever the term they want to use for it. I'm just here just to be me. I mean, I love interacting. I love using this platform. I've always said I'm not here to generate 100 views, 1 view, 1,000 views. Whatever views I get. Okay. If you're complaining about a lack of views or a number of views, you're in this for the wrong reason. If you're in this so you can get people suckered into you because you want to lie, like people like Zim and Bengals captain like to do in Cincinnati, you're in this for the wrong reason. If you're in this like some of the morons I see in the boxing community, especially when it comes to the whole Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia fiasco, you're doing this for the wrong reason. I tell like it is straightforward to your face. I don't care if you like it or not. It's my opinion, and I stand by it. Don't like it? Too bad. There's a door. Don't let it hit you in the butt on the way out. And I will continue this venture in 2025 because I actually like it. It's actually unique. I will. I said when I did this, I was just going to more hub try to get the feel of the live stream and podcasting field. Start to take this into bigger ventures next year. I'm looking forward to stuff like Apple, Spotify, iHeart. I don't care about major stuff. I put the content out there. They can come to me. I don't beg for anything. I mean, I've dealt with, I've worked with several others. The guys who do overseas with boxing, the Boxing Media Hub. Joel and Jim Boxing Chat. Love you guys. Look forward to dealing with you next year. Guy I deal with over in Kansas, Farzin Fusugian. I was on his show. Terrific guy. Great content. Love him. I was on a boxing show with another Englishman, Sam Walker. Love him. Great stuff. I study how you guys do this, and you guys were some of the driving force of why I wanted to do this, because you guys did it the right way, and I have nothing but love and respect for you from the bottom of my heart. And it gave me some ideas as I was going along. Now, Grant, I do stutter from time to time because I put this out there. I was born with a speech impediment and still struggle with social anxiety. But those names I mentioned, as I studied and watched how they did their things, how they carry themselves, it got me thinking to do it. And because of them, if you guys are watching, Joel, Jam, Farzine, and Sam, I just want to say thank you guys. I love the hell out of you. I'm going to try and be better in 2025 as I was in 2024. It's about trending upward, not backward, not sideways, upward. I'm still a work in progress in this, I will admit, but I will aim to be better because I'm just still new to this. I mean, really, I don't aim for perfection. I don't aim, for spotless perfection because I'm human like everybody else. I just aim to get better. By the way, I get one more shout out to user I follow on X named D Block Inevitable. You had your spaces you invite me to. Shout out to you also. And of course, I was in the NFL podcast last week. Shout out to you guys over there. Thank you for having me on. I know you guys have it. A couple of you guys having me on this week. I will be there to join you. And so this will wrap up the 2024 edition of Sirhan on X. I will be back January 2nd. We talk more about the NFL playoffs, and I will aim to be better. By the way, you're more than welcome to write me a message to tell me I stink, because I can take it. I'm not one of these moronic content creators in the Cincinnati community, because I know how to accept it. I aim to be better. Until then, hope everyone has themselves a wonderful and safe new year. If you guys are going to go out, be safe and be smart, because I've seen a lot of stories that happen around the new year. Have a good night. Take care of yourselves. Enjoy the rest of 2024. I'll see you guys in 2025. Take care and God bless.